Good morning, sisters. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to talk to you. I'd like to share a brief account of my great-great-grandmother, Mary Larsen Alstrom, who was born in Denmark in 1836. When she was 18, she was converted to a new religion, which was brought to her home by two traveling missionaries. The principles of Mormonism were explained with such clarity and power, substantiated by so much Bible evidence, that our family soon became converts. She was baptized with her parents on April 6, 1854. They also heard the call to gather with the saints in America and basically gave up all of their belongings. Our friends and kindred did all in their power to dissuade us against what seemed to them a foolish credulity. They traveled from Copenhagen to Liverpool and boarded a ship along with 500 other Mormon converts. They had some afflictions with disease, and the death rate was high, especially among children. They had bad weather when they hit the waters, but on Christmas Eve, the ship was struck by a hurricane, and for a time it seemed that the old windjammer was doomed to be swallowed up by the sea. They finally landed in New York 66 days later. Their journey west continued by train through Chicago until the railroad terminated on the eastern bank of the Mississippi River. We were instructed to tie ropes to the handles of our chests, place our bedding and other belongings on top of them, and drag them over the ice to Burlington, Iowa. This we did, the ice creaking at every step. We were ignorant of the fact that we were walking across the great Father of Waters, or that, it being the first day of March, we were likely to break through at any moment. In Burlington, they joined a colony of Mormons whose destination was also Salt Lake City. They stayed there for 3 years, preparing to resume their journey. Leaving Burlington, they traveled 50 miles to Fairfield, where they joined another group of saints, and continued 300 miles further to Council Bluffs, Iowa, where they crossed the Missouri River on a ferry boat. At Florence, Nebraska, the wagons were overhauled and loaded with provisions for the journey of 1,000 miles to the Salt Lake Valley. They reached Fort Ephraim September 10, 1859, having spent 4 months in constant travel since leaving Iowa. There wasn't a vacant house that we could go to, and no time to build one before the winter set in. We dug us a cellar in the ground, roofed it over with willows, straw, and earth, added a fireplace and chimney, and lo, we had a home. We had to get pitch pine to burn to have a light in the fireplace, as we had neither candles nor coal oil. Our shoes were worn out, and we had to get wooden shoes, and we were glad that there was a wooden shoemaker at Fort Ephraim, so we didn't have to go barefooted. Sisters, aren't we glad that we live in the convenience of the times that we have today? I am very grateful for my grandmother and others who have gone before us, and their stories of faith are our strength to me. What do we learn from these pioneer experiences? I wanted to share some thoughts from an address from Elder Lawrence E. Corbridge, formerly the 70, that he gave at a Pioneer Day devotional last year. As I read this address, I was struck with how applicable it is today, as we've experienced the unrest, the uncertainty, and these unnerving times. These stories of the early saints serve as a marvelous example of how we can survive and thrive during times of adversity and how it can make us stronger. I encourage you to take the time to read the entire address, as it was very inspiring to me, and I think it will be to you as well. He asks a couple of interesting questions. Why did so many intelligent people give up so much and willingly endure such great suffering to gather with the saints? Why did the early saints persist after repeated failure and constant opposition? What are the characteristics of people who not only survive but also thrive in great adversity? He goes on to explain that our natural instinct, understandably, is to shrink from hardship, but it is a grave mistake for that to be life's primary objective. That kind of thinking wrongly equates the pursuit of joy with the hollowness of ease. While it has some appeal, it is a deeply flawed strategy, because suffering and joy are not incompatible, but rather essential companions. I really like this last part, he says, and it sounds familiar. It echoes 2 Nephi. You can suffer and never know joy, but you can't have joy without suffering. He described how people who handle crisis and trauma remain relatively calm and rational. They put themselves together quickly, they accept the situation, make decisions to improve it, and take action. We are most rattled when our lives suddenly change, especially by events outside our control. Those who fare best are the most flexible and less dependent on their environment and the normal routines of life for stability. This is more than optimism and a positive attitude. This is faith. Survivors and thrivers see things for what they are, good and bad, and then deal with them. Bad things happen, but as it did with the early saints, we must accept life's realities, even the harsh ones, and trust that the Lord's help we may endure well, and that all things, both good and bad, will ultimately work together for our good. This week in Come Follow Me, the prophet Alma, takes the opportunity to teach his sons, and in particular, he shared his experiences of his own conversion. And he explains how his faith strengthened him through times of trial. In Alma 36, verse 27, it says, "And I have been supported under trials and troubles of every kind, yea, and in all manner of afflictions. Yea, God has delivered me from prison, and from bonds, and from death. Yea, I do put my trust in him, and he will still deliver me." So, sisters, I would challenge you to study these stories of the pioneers, and whether it's in your own family and maybe they didn't cross the plains, but they survived and thrived through other circumstances that were difficult. And maybe it's your own story. How are you able to survive and thrive in the times in which we live? And I hope that you recognize that it is through our faith, that we can strengthen our faith, and it will help us get through these troubled times. I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. We miss you. We love you. We hope that you're doing well. We hope that the time will come quickly where we can meet together again soon. One final little plug I wanted to put in for family history. In celebration of Pioneer Day, I will be posting a short video on some fun activities you can do with your family through Family Search. And hopefully you'll take the time to do that. You can open up those conversations and teach your children about the pioneers that have gone on before you. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks.